Hello, Noble people. My name is the Noble, and welcome to another Wishlist Marvel Rivals video. I want to talk about some more characters that I do want to wishlist on Marvel Rivals, as some of the wishlist characters have come true. We already have slated to get some of the X-Men characters later this year, and Ultron has already been outright confirmed in the Season 2. He's coming in this later half of Season 2, so Season 1 point, or Season point 5, 2.5. So I'm very excited for Ultron. He's supposed to be a support. So in this actual video, I'm going to be talking more about vanguards and strategist characters, because those are the characters that I actually care about more. I tend to either play those two roles, and I only play like 1 to 2 duelists, while I like playing most of the vanguards and most of the support cast. The first character I want to talk about is none other than Carnage, by far my favorite symbiote and favorite Spider-Man character as well. Venom is cool and all, but Carnage takes it another level. Carnage actually uses the symbiote powers to actually make weapons, primarily the scythes he uses, but he also makes like axe. He can like shoot like spikes of like symbiote stuff. He has so many abilities and so many things that he can do, and his symbiote is more unique because why a symbiote is unique in the first place is that it's a symbiotic relationship with the host. In the case of Venom in the Marvel Rivals continuity, he is bonded with a character named Eddie Brock, and they have complete symbiosis, and they have complete control over one another. In the case for Carnage, his host Cletus Cassidy, a murderer, like an actual like serial killer, they are bonded by blood, so they don't have a complete like connection to each other, so they're erratic and insane, and it's a very interesting character. Now you may be asking, okay, so is this character going to be a tank then? Wouldn't that be not that good, since we already have two spider people as tanks with Penny and Venom? No, I actually want Carnage to be a strategist. Now, this might sound insane, but hear me out. Right now, all of the spider characters we have in the game play extremely different from one another. Venom and Penny are completely different tanks or vanguards, even though they're the same like class. Penny is more focused on traps and area control, while Venom is more of a disruptive presence and tries to get some picks. Spider-Man does try and get some picks with Venom, but he's much more of a threat. Venom can't kill people as quick as Spider-Man can, and Spider-Man can just outright pull people off the map, completely disrupt the team if you know how to play him right, and there's a high skill ceiling. Venom doesn't have that high of a skill ceiling. I feel like Carnage would play very similar to Spider-Man or Venom if put in Vanguard or Duelist. However, if we put him in support, I feel like we can have a wider range of how the character is going to play. And I actually want to be inspired by his actually blood symbiosis and make him a healer kind of like Brigitte from Overwatch. Now, Brigitte is a very strong character. As a matter of fact, a lot of people left the game when she was first released because she was insanely broken and just kind of ruined the game. Now, she has been toned down, which is good, but I haven't really played the game that much, so I don't really know how she is right now. But the main aspect of her kit is that she is a support character all around, protecting herself with her shield, disrupting the enemies, and also having healing for her entire team, primarily by her passive, which is called Inspire. The more damage she deals, the more healing she heals. And I feel like that might be a really cool concept for Carnage. Carnage's base abilities would still be with his actual symbiote suit, using his scythes, using like the projectiles he can shoot out from his suit, and like everything. And he could even take inspiration from having a shield, like creating a shield around him, to like using his arms to just be big and create a shield from that. Kind of like how Groot in the movies uses his hands as a shield. If you've ever seen the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I think he does it in the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie. That would be pretty cool. But the main use of his kit is he would have a passive with a blood passive, meaning the more damage he does, the more damage he can actually heal himself and people around him, allowing him to jump in and try and getting that damage he wants to try and get to heal the teams. And on top of it, to make him more unique than Brigida, not just a one-to-one copy, he'd also have a bleed effect, because it makes sense that he would cut enemies and they would bleed a little bit, having a little bit of damage over time. He could still have the Spider-Man swing. I don't actually know if he does that in the comics. I actually haven't seen too much of Carnage in the comics. I do love him as a character, but I mainly know him from some of the mobile games that I used to play, like, to death. I loved those stuff, and he was my favorite character from there. But I feel like he could be a very interesting strategist, because the idea of strategist isn't just blatant heals. They can be a strategist. They can be strategic, being able to be an aggressive attacker. I mean, Mr. Fantastic is a duelist, and he doesn't feel like a duelist. He feels more like a Vanguard that has a little bit more damage than how a Vanguard would. So having a strategist to have a high damage capacity and still be able to heal the team is very interesting to me. The next character on our list is one that I'm going to actually have a very, very different take depending on how you view it, is Taskmaster. Now, I love Taskmaster. A lot of people do. I really don't like the MCU version, but I think it's like that MCU version is actually possibly going to die in the Thunderbolts movie from how the advertising goes. Like, you don't see that version of the Taskmaster anywhere, which is okay, I guess. But basically, if you don't know, Taskmaster has the ability to completely photocopy and completely replicate a character's moveset and abilities, like, verbatim. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily some powers, some stuff he can't actually replicate, but he can copy some fighting styles and know how to completely counter you. Meaning that it would be very interesting to see a character actually fully copy abilities. In this gameplay you're watching now, I'm playing a Loki who's literally just copied Thor, but being able to copy that as an ultimate is different to being able to copy it as your abilities. Being able to just take an ability from one character and use it permanently for the rest of the game could be insanely big, which is why I think Taskmaster shouldn't actually have a role in the game. I think it would be insanely cool if we could outright just have Taskmaster be a completely rogue character. A character that is literally all around designed to, hey, I'm going to yoink this ability from you, I'm going to take one ability from you, and have a mismatch character. Now, that doesn't mean we are going to have a complete character that's just abilities from other heroes. Like I said, he couldn't copy some stuff. Like, he's not going to be able to turn into the Hulk, and he's not going to be able to, like, have some of, like, he's not going to be able to call upon Khonshu for, like, Moon Knight. He's not going to be able to do Hela stuff. Like, he can't do that stuff. But, like, Punisher, he can copy Punisher's stuff. He could very easily copy Spider-Man's, like, how Spider-Man fights, not necessarily Spider-Man's abilities, but how he fights. And he has counters and countermeasures. And I think it would be insanely fun if you could pick and choose what abilities you have for the time comes. Oh, we need an extra healer? Okay, I'll take one healer ability, and then I'll have some extra damage so we can still have that damage output. It'll allow you to run actually a solo healer, because if you had the solar healer and Taskmaster, you could actually get some healing done. Maybe you want to completely decimate the team with 2 Moon Knights. Okay, the basic weapon of Taskmaster is Moon Knight's basic weapon. So you can have the entire enemy team getting ricocheted upon and getting a bunch of ult charge for both of them. It's just a very interesting way to develop a character. Now, I'm not necessarily going to be 100% mad if they were to not do it like this. I would imagine they would make Taskmaster a duelist character, but I think it's very interesting to have a character that doesn't have a defined role, or maybe even have, like, their own separate class that isn't Vanguard, duelist, or strategist. I think that's very creative and really interesting from a gameplay perspective. The next hero that I would want to see is an actual healer. I know I've been doing villains, is Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man would make a perfect Vanguard character. Now, obviously, this would be a very interesting way to design a Vanguard, as obviously Ant-Man's going to be an ant, like he's going to be insanely tiny, but him being able to have the ability to supersize himself to be gigantic, shrink himself. In the even movies where I don't really like the Ant-Man movies that much, he does have these discs that in grow or shrink stuff, so maybe he could chuck a disc at someone and make them insanely small and reduce their health, maximum health, to be able to kill them. Or maybe he can throw an enlarging one at his teammates to make his teammates bigger and more beefier. There's an entire way you can design this character. You can incorporate the actual ants into how he plays. Maybe he has ants that do damage over time. Maybe when you're tiny, you can summon one of the ants with the wings to fly around. You could do so much with Ant-Man, and I feel like there's a lot of gameplay potential. Now, from a enemy standpoint, I don't really know how Ant-Man would work. Obviously, he can't be the actual size of an ant relative to what your character's size is, because you wouldn't be able to see them. But I feel like if he was around half the size of Jeff with no like less health but no like reduction. If you don't know, Jeff actually has a headshot reduction, so Jeff takes reduced headshot damage because a lot of his body is his head. If he didn't have any reduction, I can imagine people actually missing you if you're like half the size of Jeff or even like a quarter of the size of Jeff. I feel like you could do a decent amount of fun with Ant-Man. Now, like I said, I don't know about Ant-Man's story and stuff too much. Now, it makes sense that they would introduce Ant-Man at least somewhat soon. If you don't know, in the majority of the Ultron story, Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, is who makes Ultron. In the MCU, it's Tony Stark who makes Ultron, which is not the normal way. It's just a different interpretation of the character. So having Hank Pym Ant-Man come into the game makes sense if Ultron is coming into the game in Season 2.5. The next character I want to talk about will be Green Goblin. Now, I love Green Goblin. He could be an insanely good duelist character. However, again, I do want him to be a strategist. Him being able to stay on his actual glider and throw down pumpkin bombs that could heal teammates seems like it actually be pretty interesting. Supposedly, Ultron is supposed to be our next flying hero, and he'll be our first actual flying support character. However, having a character that is kind of always in the air, kind of like Iron Man, would be very interesting, and he doesn't even necessarily need to stay in the air the entire time. He could even have an ability where his glider tries to impale and stab someone like it does in the movies. And I have seen a little bit of discourse online regarding what Green Goblin should actually be, and I actually have an interesting take. A lot of people want the original Green Goblin with the glider like I already showcased, but a lot of people also want to see Ultimate Green Goblin, who is a giant monster, and I think it would be really cool if this version of Green Goblin's ultimate was him turning into this big one. We only really have two characters that have a transformation alt gimmick, which is Magic, and then obviously Hulk. So having another character that can transform and turn into this monster is insanely cool, and I think it would make him very interesting because we don't actually have a lot of support ultimates that do pure damage. Most of them are going to do heal stuff and not really do too much in terms of like supporting the team. Even the most disruptive healer alt right now would be Rocket Raccoon's alt, because it gives you a 40% damage boost, but once Season 2 rolls around on the 11th of April, he's gonna be nerfed in terms of what it does. So having an actual support ultimate that does more damage and is supposed to make space, kind of like how Monster Hulk does space, I think is very interesting. Now, to wrap up this video, I actually want to talk about some maps that I would really like to see on the game. Some of the maps we already have are actually insanely cool. I really like the symbiote map that we have. The Midtown map was good, and us, obviously, in Season 2, we are getting Krakoa, the island of the mutants. I think all those are very good spots to have maps. However, in the future, I would like some very special places on from the Marvel Universe to actually be maps. I feel like some of the places that I'm going to list right now are very interesting, and being able to fight on these like places in the Marvel Universe is really cool. I love these, especially in the movies, how big of a scale some of this stuff is. The first one is Nowhere. I love this. This is my favorite set piece in all of Marvel, even in all of MCU even. I absolutely love Nowhere. The idea that there's just a giant titan skeleton, or like not even skeleton because it still has flesh on it, that people just live in. In the third movie they turn it into like a battle station where it can like move, it shoots a cannon out of its eye. It's so cool, and I would love this to be a map. I would love this so much to be a map. Ego could very easily be another map. The planet Ego, or Peter Quill or Star-Lord's dad is literally just a planet. He's like a celestial. Now I don't actually know within lore of the Marvel Rivals if Ego would be dead. In most continuities, he kills him pretty quickly. Like, I know in the MCU he's dead, but I don't even know if he's dead or alive in the Marvel Rivals. So this might not be a possibility, but I think it would be cool to just be on a living planet. That would be really cool to me. With Doctor Doom most likely becoming a character, Latveria, his kingdom, makes complete sense to be a map. I think it would be really cool to see it. We don't really have like a medieval style map right now. Sometimes in Asgard it can look a little bit medieval, but it looks a slightly too futuristic with all the marble to be technically medieval. So I would absolutely love to see it. So I think it's really cool. Now I think one of the actual Dracula maps is a little bit medieval, but that's more like gothic. So having it be a medieval Latverian country is really cool to me. So yeah, that's about it. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on what the characters and maps that I listed. I know I kind of stretched the thing with making some characters support and some characters strategist, but I personally think we shouldn't like limit characters to only being vanguards and duelists if just because of how their power set is. You can be a villain and can very easily be a strategist. I'm very happy Ultron is supposed to be a strategist because it just makes sense logically to have a character be fun to play first and then fit them into a role later. Just making them fun to play is what all I care about. So I try to do that and had that mindset going into that. But yeah, let me know what you think. Stay noble. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.